So first of all, thank you very much for coming out. It did look at about 2 o'clock that the heavens are going to deluge us and we'd all need arcs, so thanks for coming down. Normally when you read from a novel you have to spend a while explaining how you get to the point of the novel which you're doing a reading from, but I've spared us all that because the way this novel's written is sort of quite self-contained sections, and the voice I'm going to read tonight is a series of journal entries. But in the book they're all out of chronological order. I'm not to give the spoiler away why that is. So the only thing I need to say about this section is that this is the voice of a mother of 2 young daughters in post-peace agreement Northern Ireland around the turn of the millennium, so 1999 when the peace agreement came into force, and the years after that. And I'm going to stand up if yes, I've got that. For why can't we aspire to move out of the area, to give our offspring a better upbringing? Due to me getting my coordinates wrong, bearing true north instead of magnetic north, i.e. the pull of his friends, colour-coded and convenient cronies, and of more import than our own children evidently, with friends like his who needs extraterrestrials. As for me, my surrogate friends are determined by the exigencies of my newly adapted life. NCT and pregnant yoga communards, playgroup, nursery and now school parents. While the former drift away into their own private but supple hells, the latter I spend my time politicking and diplomacying among, in order to get them to like my children. Monitoring whispers of swapped telephone numbers, watching for furtive exchanges of party invites. The stakes are very high. The defence of the realm of my daughter's development, no less. She may be responsible for electing who her playmates are inside, but here, out in the car park, favoured grace determines whom are players and whom are not. The little faces register nothing of the subterfuge occurring above their heads, but they cotton on. They are innately programmed to pick up and respond, for how could they fail not to? They're mothers with expressions like defeated Oscar nominees at awards time. To discover we, that is both Suzanne and I, didn't merit an accolade. Of course, it's who you know, darling. That bitch. I don't care that it was the first week of term and her little spawn of Beelzebub didn't know any of the new kids. It should have been the whole class invited round to finger paint on her wallpaper with chocolate birthday cake melted by hot little hands. Yeah? Well, you should have had the school calendar in mind when you were procreating, missus. You and your asinine black hand gang. With your prissy manicures concealed inside leather gloves against the autumn chill. And the Rayburns, hardly for harbouring milky eyes from the roomy sun, more likely to filter out the wavelength of us way-faced women, even as you cast disdainful darts from behind their embrasure. Walkman earphones for women who never go anywhere on foot, save the gym treadmill, in order to blot out our background chatter, since you can't bear to fall in line behind our bromidic hum. Who do you take your directions from, I wonder? I half expect you to whisper down the cuff of your blouse to receive the holy orders of your mother's superior's clique, the uplated, aloof gesture from your moisturised handlers, the latest affectation mandate from your fashionista wranglers. But then I realise how ridiculous you are in your black-clad sensory deprivation. Aren't you aware how the stark glove contrast lights up the white envelopes like a searchlight beam? There are people who do real secret agent stuff in this land, and they're dying for it. If I was petty enough, I'd utilise black envelopes, blend in unseen against the coven's uniform. You wouldn't have a clue it was even taking place if I chose not to invite you and your brat. Or maybe I'd flaunt it, rub it in your face, wear white gloves like some photographic inversion of everything you are. Embossed black invites for a kid's party. How apposite. And now take another journal entry. They think they've got it tough with their protocols and provisos. Have they ever once just paused to give thought to the intractable problem of divvying up going home party bags? Article 1. Shiny pencils. Well, I think all of us around the table could concur on that as uncontentious. Of course, one's making assumptions about the artistic and literary cultures of each family, but in the main, the key issue is merely whether they are combined with the razors on the top or separate. Economy usually wins out. Article 2. Chocolate and a sweet or two. Again, we can puff out our chests with conviction at the universal acceptance of these twin accords. So far, so unequivocal. So long as we collectively gloss over nannying government health warnings about too much confectionary's pillage of our little treasure's teeth. Article 3. At this point, I suppose, it is incumbent on me to toss in the ticking time bomb of the cake. A. Lights down. Here it is, being marched out and regaled in song, festooned with midget flares, while being digitally preserved for later postprandial forensic reconstruction. B. Lights out, as its waxy beacons are snuffed, or not, as the case may be if joke candles have been employed, and then the countdown really begins. C. Back into the galley, sliced up and individually wrapped in napkins or aluminium foil. To hell with ecological conservation, this is a party, and placed in each bag, in time for the onslaught home, unless. D. Some strategic parents buy a second inferior cake and pre-portion and dispense it within each bag, before the first compelling tinkle on the doorbell has even signalled the party's start. That way they get to keep the perishable work of decorative art to themselves, and the beatified, for one day at least, fruit of their loins, gets to eat as much marzipan until they are sick and beatific no more. Meanwhile, the benighted have to content themselves with a facsimile, by devouring both the cake and all the bag's confectionery on top of the sweetmeats and sweeteners consumed at the party itself, in the time it takes to be driven home in the car. Article 4. Finally, the declaration. The pre-prepared generic "thank you for coming" and "thank you for your lovely, as yet unknown, present. Hope you had as much fun," presumptuous, "as I did," presumptive. The note makes a handy wipe for the child's sticky, sicky hand. See Article 3D. While still tethered in the child's seat, when mummy cannot leave the steering wheel and fully turn round to mop up. It's the forethought that counts. Article 5. And on to the real nub of the predicament in which we parent hosts annually find ourselves. The clincher. The toys. The broad parameters are not in dispute. With 15 to 30 kids to gratify, said toys must come from the racks in Pound Saver, Stretcher or Undershops, yet look as though they came from loftier perches. But you need to hit upon divergent bargain bulk buys, since boys and girls are irrevocably either side of the peace line from here in on. Strand 1. For every bloody party unfailingly sends the boys home with plastic arsenals. Here, in Ulster, I ask you. Strand 2. While the girls get miniature address books and hair grips, if the birthday-fated child is a boy, something a tad more imaginative if they are a girl, and presumably insisted on some input and first output of the gifts. Implementation and review. I'm afraid I repudiated compliance, for instead of toys, I intromitted books into each party bag. The boys indignantly demanded to be rearmed immediately. The girls querulously queried as to whether each little Miss book was my judgment on their character. I got to buy most of them back at the thrift shop in the space of a fortnight. No one had written their names on the inside covers. Suzanne's party was talked over as one of the worst in living memory, simply on the strength or the weakness of the parting gift. That's 40 quid on a party entertainer wasted then. And all authors are decommissioned at a stroke. The pen is not mightier than the stiletto. Thank God next year's round of parties bifurcates into exclusive football or makeover ones. That, if any girls will still associate with her after her mother's dagger of betrayal through her heart. Communique, darling, I'm so sorry. And very briefly, back to the school playground. Caught myself at it again today. I've been trailing here long enough now to put the names to the faces to the aspects of the mothers, trace the parabolas of shed scales as children slough themselves from the line snaked behind the teacher and puff and distend themselves into a paroxysm of burst relief. I follow the fallout, trace the trajectories of unleashed ground-to-air arms flung out for a hug. I plot the tear-streaked cheeks to the eczematous worry beads of maternal fingers. I match a fresh-faced, ruddy-cheeked visage to the cracked-veined bucolic alcoholic, rather than the emulsified rouge prominence and beacon-red lipstick of the mother flushed with church-mongering sociability. Hers is the pig-tailed, pierced-eared princess, hewn from head girl material. Hard on the heels of the girl with tight braids and a miniature briefcase, demurely marching up towards her own spruced mother, to receive another dose of middle management incentives and exhortations. I almost overlooked the bland formlessness of a mother and daughter, who describe one another fully in their inimitable non-descriptiveness. The pair who seemingly didn't feel it necessary to comment on school, one another, or even life itself, as they trudge mutely off. Their plastic souls kiss-sucking the playground tarmac as redundant punctuation. And so it goes on. I won't prejudge my daughters, but sure as hell will anybody else's. It's not big or clever, but it does answer a few queries, without me having to undergo the unpleasantries of actually talking to any of these women. Thank you.